This should be our last video of the year, and I want you guys to know I tried so hard to put on my T-Rex costume today to film the last one in costume for you, and it didn't work, but I tried really hard. So we'll do our last lesson, Intro to Trig Identities. Now, this is different. There are whole semester and year classes on Trig, and we've slammed a whole bunch into 1/4 of Math 3. And so today is all about manipulating trig identities. You're used to seeing sine, cosine, tangent. And we've become more comfortable with cosecant and secant and cotangent. Now there are some different ways I want you to look at these today. You know that these are inverses of each other, right? So there's a different way to write those. And take notes on this, because I don't have a notes page for you. Sine of x can be written as 1 over the cosecant of x. Cosecant of x is 1 over the secant of x. That makes sense, right? 1 over. That means inverse. Tangent is 1 over cotangent of x. And then we can also go in the other direction. Cosecant is 1 over sine. Secant is 1 over cosine. And cotangent is 1 over tangent of x. And there's one more that's going to come to play today. There are several more trig identities, but we're just getting a brief introduction. But the last one you need to know for this lesson is tangent of x can be expressed as sine of x divided by cosine of x. There's a big proof of that, but we'll save that for another day. And if that's tangent of x, we could also say cotangent of x. The inverse would be cosine of x over sine of x. So pause the camera, take notes on those, and now I'm going to be doing some of your homework problems. Your homework will give you something like this. It will say, simplify. And it will give you a fraction of some sort of trig identities. And our job is to make it as simple as possible. So I'm going to look at cotangent, and I know that's the inverse of tangent. Now, because we just wrote it down, we know tangent is sine of x over cosine of x. So if I've got cotangent of x, that can be rewritten as, let's use the inverse, cosine over sine. All right, and let's make this look like a fraction. How do we divide by a fraction? We flip in time. 1 over cosine of x. Now what happens? Cross cancel. Those can go away. I'm left with 1 over sine of x. Look back to your notes and your trig identities. 1 over sine of x equals cosecant of x. And you're done with that problem. Maybe I'll keep that there. All right, next, number 2, tangent of x over sine of x. How can we rewrite tangent of x? As sine over cosine. Let's make this denominator look like a fraction. How do we divide by a fraction? We flip in times. Those cross cancel, and I'm left with 1 over cosine of x. Look back to your trig identities. 1 over cosine of x can also be rewritten as secant of x. Number 3. I'm going too fast for you, just pause. I'm trying to make this a pretty brief video. Secant of x over cosecant of x. All right, secant of x can be written as, waiting for my computer to catch up. There it is. 1 over cosine of x. Cosecant of x can be rewritten as 1 over secant. Whoops. 1 over sine of x. How do we divide by a fraction? Flip and times. Nothing cancels this time. I am left with sine of x over cosine of x. That should look familiar. This simplifies to tangent of x. And we've simplified that problem. Four. These are straight out of your homework, by the way, so maybe you'll get some duplicates. Okay, let's rewrite this as sine over cosine. And this is 1 over cosine. How do we divide by a fraction? Flip and times. Cosine x over 1. Those cross cancel, and I'm left with sine of x over 1, or sine of x. 2 more problems. These are just a little bit different. 5. Cosecant of x, sine of x over cotangent of x. All right, let's write everything with their fractions. That is 1 over sine of x times sine of x over 1, well, let's not do 1 over tangent. Inverse tangent. Let's take the inverse of this guy. All right, so let's call that cosine of x over sine of x. Let's see what happens here. Well, cross cancel, and I'm left with 1 over cosine x, sine of x. How do I divide by a fraction? Flip and times. 1 times this is sine of x over cosine of x, which we know can be rewritten as tangent of x. Last problem. Simplify. Sine of x, cotangent of x. Cotangent is the inverse, so I can rewrite that as cosine of x over sine of x. Cross cancel, and we are left with cosine of x. Happy day.